Hello, Aldwyn Altuney here. It's with great pleasure that I introduce our guest today, coming all the way from the United States. We have Jacob Roig. He is a business coach. He's an amazing guy. He's been in the industry 12 plus years. He's worked with the likes of John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and he's extraordinary. Fantastic to have you here with us, Jacob. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here and excited to share whatever shows up.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Now, today we have a very exciting topic, and it is for people who are in business or maybe who want to go into business. Now, you are a master mindset and business coach, and of course, mindset is so important. So we're going to talk about guiding entrepreneurs to mindset mastery today and a six-figure profit. Before we get to that topic, though, I'd love to know a bit of your background and how you got into coaching.
Yeah, thank you, Aldwyn. My background was in sales and business to business, selling non-tangibles, advertising, and really a strategy for success if they followed the plan. So I did that. I was in corporate life for quite a while. I had some really good success. You know, I have one thing in the background. It's or this side. It was President's Club, which I won several times, and it's all these achievements. And in sales, it just teaches you a few things, and it kind of prepped me for entrepreneurship, which is learning how to manage yourself to begin with. But that was my background there. And then my work with John Gray started at around 1999. And I was fortunate enough to be able to work with him for 7 years up at a wellness ranch and retreat. And the whole time we were interacting and we got really friendly, and he kept saying, "You should be a coach. You should be a coach." And I'm like, "What's a coach?" Because back then they were around for quite a while, but nobody really knew about it. And once I started finding out, I said, I've been doing this for a long time anyway, which is helping business owners get out of their way, figure things, structure and strategies out, and simplifying them for them. Even when I sold advertising, I would teach them how to track their advertising because so many did not. And it was easy to either sell or not sell if it wasn't working. But that's kind of how I got led into that, was by John Gray was really a great influence in it. And then I got certified through Mars Venus Business Relationship Coach. And that led me to Coaches Training Institute, CTI, where I took a 2.5-year certification program, which was pretty intense, but I'm grateful for the experience for sure.
Brilliant. I love how you shared with me on our last call how you actually came to work with John Gray. There was a lot of your own determination that was involved with that too. Could you share that story about how you actually got that opportunity?
Yeah, that was my, before I even fully realized that the entrepreneurial spirit, right, which is ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
And so I was at an event. I'd been going to self-improvement, self-empowerment trainings for about 10 years by then. And I was at an event and my intuition spoke. I went to the back, I bought one of his books, and I just had this thought, and it said, "Be the last person to speak to him today." And normally I'd be like, "Let me get out of here as soon as I can. There's traffic. I got to get out of the parking lot." All the things that we go through. And I waited. I waited 2.5 hours. And then I was the last person to speak with him, and we spoke for 90 minutes, which was amazing in itself. And at the end, he said, "I just started this wellness retreat. I'd love to invite you and your wife up to come and experience it." And I was like, "I'm in, when, whatever, like if I have to walk, let's do it." So I was living in the Midwest at the time, and this was in Northern California, and it was on a 1,500 feet up, so 500 meters from the Pacific Ocean, in an ancient gathering ground of Native American peoples, and it was sacred. Backed up to 1 million acres of redwood forest. It was just idyllic, and there was just a lot of things going on. It was healing. It was introducing his work, which is how relationships function and work well together. And after the first day, I said, "I got to be a part of this." And so I asked his manager, whose name is Ellie, and she said, "Well, we're not hiring anybody, and we don't have any space to just bring people in." And The next day she said, hey, I just found out that our Reiki practitioner who was doing foot massage is not going to be available anymore. Do you know Reiki? And I said, yes, I know it. I had no clue. The
Yeah.
only Reiki session I ever had was the day before on my feet. And she said, okay, at the end of this event, stay on and you're going to take me up to the room and you're going to give me a Reiki treatment. So I'm like, okay. And we went up and I gave her this Reiki session on her feet and I did the foot massage and she fell asleep. So I just kept going for the hour. I stepped outside and 45 minutes later, she came out and she was like a little bit dazed and she said, that's the best Reiki session I've ever had. You're hired. And so that was a 7-year, for the next 7 years, 10 months out of the year for up to 10 days, we would go up to this ranch and I did everything, but it was a magical time for a lot of growth.
Amazing. And there's, someone I've worked with here in Australia, Darren Stevens, who actually helped make Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus a huge success on the marketing side of things. So it's interesting, the synchronicities and the circles that we go in. And, you were connected with me through Christiana Tudor, who we had at our mass media tribe event last night. So thank you, Christiana, if you're watching this right now. Appreciate the connection. It is amazing. The people I'm connecting with in America who know people that I know, it's just an amazing circle, like the 3 degrees of separation out of the nearly 8 billion people on the planet. It's quite amazing. Now, mindset is so important. Now, what I love about that story is that you saw an opportunity, you said yes before you knew how you could do it, and then you just made it happen and you did it, right? Which just goes to show, a lot of people probably would have said, oh no, I can't do that. But you jumped in there, you wanted to work there so badly that you said, yes, I can do Reiki. And then, you worked it from what you knew from the Reiki session you had the day before. And away we go. So you jumped in there, you said yes, and then you worked out how it was going to happen.
Well, it's very similar to, you can relate to it. I can relate to it as an entrepreneur. We come up with an idea and then we just with pure excitement, we start sharing it with people and they encourage us in the beginning because it's all people that like us. And then it comes to that moment where you have to ready, fire, aim, where it's like, holy cow, now I actually have to do it. And not everybody can jump through that threshold. And so, but it is very similar to that for sure.
Yes, it takes a lot of courage. Now, you've also walked on glass and fire and all sorts of things like that too. So who are some of the people you've worked with in the personal development journey?
Yeah, well, my mentor who taught, the likes of T. Harv Eker and Tony Robbins and a lot of the people that you see that are really out there in the front that use firewalking as their, like the culmination of their programs. And his name's Tali Burkan, and he's still a mentor to me. I connect with him once a year or so. He lives about 3 hours away. But my first firewalk was, 36 feet. So that'd be 12 meters. And it was, you have these thoughts and these visions that all these problems are going to show up. Like I'm going to fall, my feet will be burned up to the knees and I may die and all these things go on. And then you go through the experience and it's elation. It's like the most ego, like I just said, it's the best drug I ever took, was going through that experience. But then 3 days later for me, I come back home and my secretary at the time I had my business, she burst through the door and she said, we got a big problem. And my first thought was, I just walked 36 feet on hot coals 3 days ago. This is nothing. And a light bulb went on. And I said, that was another, I have to learn this. I have to learn this because I just learned that what was a big problem last week is now not a big problem. And I was able to handle it very quickly, very easily. And I used the firewalk metaphor to get through that problem. And so what I've learned, I got instructed to do, and I'm an instructor now, is to firewalk, take people through glass walks, which is walking on broken glass, breaking arrows with your throat only, 2 people bending rebar with your throats, And all of these things are like, why? Common sense says, why would I do this? But they're all lessons that we can learn. The simplest one, because a lot of people have done it, is board breaking. When you break through a board, you focus on the point of the problem, right, which is that center point to the board. And then the whole objective is to go at least this far below the board. So if you look at problems, like, you focus on the problem itself, but you focus, once you know what the problem is and you know the first step you're going to take, focus on what's after the problem, and problems start to become opportunities. Because if you weren't growing, if you weren't taking a step forward, you would not have this problem. But you would be in a lot more pain and suffering because you wouldn't be doing anything. So I find problems as opportunities of growth and excitement for me.
Yes, and it takes courage. And, you know, as I say, everything is hard until it becomes easy, right? So once you know how to do it, it does become easier. And that's the thing, is to, you know, move through that, you know, go through the pain of learning something new, because it is a bit of a struggle initially, right? To get out of your comfort zone and move through that. And, you know, to come to the light at the end of the tunnel until the next challenge comes along, right? And it's an ongoing thing. And, you know, all those things you mentioned, I've done myself. I've invested about $500,000 into my personal development and my business work and marketing courses and all sorts of things for the last 15 years. So I'm a huge believer in personal development. I think it's absolutely crucial, and it makes the world of difference for your own confidence levels, for how far you go in business, in life, etc. So yeah, it's great to hear that. And I've done the arrow, and I must say the arrow on the throat was a little bit hard for me. I was it's a tricky one. That one really challenged me, because I've had a lot of throat issues, and, you know, past DNA issues around the throat. I had great grandparents who were hung in the Ukraine around the throat. I've had a guy strangle me. I saw a sheep I befriended when I was 6 that had its throat cut in front of me. So a lot of stuff around the throat, which is around also communication. And now I help people step up with their message and communicate. But, you know, the throat, I remember doing the arrow was one of the most challenging things I did out of all of those experiences that you mentioned.
For me as well. Yeah, for me as well.
Yeah.
Is finding your voice, you know, and forever I was silent, because if I was silent, I didn't get hurt when I was young. When I was noticed, I got hurt. So I learned how to be silent and invisible. And then for me, my adult life has been figuring out how not to be. And now there's sometimes people would wish I was. Just kidding.
So speaking up. So guiding entrepreneurs to mindset mastery. So what does it take with someone who maybe hasn't done much personal development, who comes to you? Where do you start with them?
I start with, you know, getting an understanding that they have to transition from being a doer of something that they're good at or that they've learned, to being a business owner and leader of that. Because there's 3 main parts to your business. There's the fulfillment, which is what we usually know first. Then there's the admin, which are all the things that you have to do. You have to be, you know, follow up, scheduling your time, you know, processing, you know, doing, you know, following your books so you can pay your taxes or write off as much as taxes as, you know, the government allows you to do. And there's also the marketing and the sales function. You know, those are the 3 main portions of it. And we're really good at the fulfillment, and we'll do the admin at last minute. And at all costs, we try to avoid the marketing and sales if we don't have the experience to do it. And that's really the most important part of the business, because if people don't know what you do, you could be the best at doing it, but nobody knows you. And so that's the first piece that I start working on, is them just encapsulating the vision of that. And then where it really starts is getting really clear to have a meaning behind what you're doing. Why is it important for you to do this? There's usually several meanings, you know, it's for the lifestyle, for my family, or for myself. There's sometimes it's because you feel an urging or a calling to do this work, to help people in this way. We have to get clear in that, because if you don't have a really strong meaning and a knowing of that meaning, it's really hard to keep faith activated. It's really tough to anchor in your belief system. And your belief system, as you know, we have to have really strong faith, and we have to activate our belief, or our doubt creeps in, and one mistake can take us out for a while. So as you know, like I always tell people, this will be the biggest self-discovery journey of your life, being an entrepreneur, because you have to learn how to make decisions. You have to learn how to handle mistakes. Sometimes you create massive failure, which I've had. And how do you rise up from that? So there's so many pieces to it, but I first start with them getting clear in their why, and then remembering that and getting them really specifically defined in that clarity, because that is the thing that will sustain you when the things go bad. I wrote something today, but it's so true. You have to own your struggle and your sacrifice, because we do. There's sacrifices you'll have to make with time or money or both. There's struggles that you go through trying to figure things out that are new. And we have to own that. And we have to really honor that struggle, because that's the thing that'll separate us from wishers and doers.
Yes. The E-Myth is a great book as well. The E-Myth talks about, a lot of people are technicians in their business, and, all of that, the back end, which I must say admin is not a strong point for me.
No.
And I've had a lot of admin help and I still struggle with it. So, it's I guess finding the right team members as well. That back end is so important, and so many entrepreneurs are, like throwing 10 balls in the air, and that's why I guess 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years, and in the next 5 years, 80% of those fail. So, I've been going 15 years now in mine, so I guess I'm doing okay. I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Doing something right. And I do love what I do. And I think that's really important too, is to love what you do, not just do something just for the money. And so people who come to you who might be a little bit lost, say, and maybe they've lost their passion in their business, what do you recommend to those people?
Well, to connect to passion, you have to, connect with either the help that you offer and the difference in the impact that makes, or the difference or impact that it makes on you. Because see, as we have to step up to things, it proves to us some things indirectly or directly that we have this capability inside of us that we don't even recognize sometimes. It's part of the reason that I became an instructor for firewalking and things of this nature, because I can teach people in 2 days. We can go through 14 different modalities. So firewalking isn't like the culminating thing in my program. It's one of them. But I can show you in 2 days how you can confront your fear and go through changes dramatically in a very quick period of time, and how you can use your experiences going forward to help yourself move through anything that shows up. See, in mindset, and we've heard this before, I can't control what shows up in my life. I just can't. I couldn't control COVID. If we could, we wouldn't have it. Yes. But it showed up. How am I going to respond to this and react to it? And COVID's a great example. When it first hit for me, it was March 11th. We were a week ahead of the U.S., the rest of the country. In California, they shut everything down March 11th. And my first thing was, for 2 hours, I'm like, holy crap. My whole business could implode. Everybody could say this. That's the fear, right? That's the like, oh no. And then for 2 hours about that, I was in that space and I said, well, I have a choice. How do I choose to respond to this? I slow myself down, which I recommend that you do. And I just became aware of what I was experiencing. And I go, well, I'm experiencing this fear. And do I choose to stay in this fear? It's like, no, I'm good with it. 2 hours is enough. And then I just said, what's one thing I can do right now that might make a difference? You don't even have to know exactly the right answer, but you have to be willing to take that step. And I said, get in action. Okay. What kind of action? And I said, so I made a commitment that I was going to contact every single client that I have and tell them, look, we have to coach every single day. And this added like this 10 times my time investment, but it made a difference, because by April 30th, every single client that I worked with was either doing the same or exceeding their results from the previous year. They didn't have the dip. I had one client that wasn't doing the work that experienced severe hardship because their business just like disappeared. Everybody else figured out a different way to do their business. I have the best example as a brick and mortar lawn and garden equipment person. Lawn and garden's the last thing you're thinking of when COVID's here. You're trying to find toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
or wipes, right? And so, but he just made a difference, and he said, look, let's brainstorm together, and that's what we did. It's about collaboration. And that's how we found each other, is because of this. So there's all these good things that happen, but his business has increased by 30% over last year. Instead of people coming to him, he started going out to people. We'll deliver your product. You need new equipment? We'll bring it to you. Let us know what it is. We created series of questions, and then he'd bring the right equipment to them. They could see it from the beauty of their own house. And all this work, they did electronic processing instead of hand over cash, and it all worked. But he got really active. That was the key.
Fantastic. That is really brilliant. It's great to see people hopping on the live here. If you do have any questions for Jacob as we're going along, we're going to be chatting for about another half hour or so. So if you do have questions, pop it in the comments and we will come to you. Any questions about mindset, entrepreneurship. Now, I'd love to hear a bit more about your story, Jacob. What are some challenges that you've overcome personally, and how have you moved through those?
Yeah, well, 2009, I experienced a bankruptcy and I lost everything I'd ever worked for. It was on my 50th birthday, and it was over 2 million net worth, which was a lot considering I had a high school graduation, and my parents, and God bless them, because you just do the best that you know. I was a high school graduate, and they said, hey, you should go work at the factory. We can get you a job. And I just knew I wasn't geared for that, even though the money was fantastic at that time. And that experience allowed me to let go of something that wasn't working. And it took a while, but it plants another seed. See, they can take away your stuff, but they can't take away your experience or knowledge. And it took me a while to repurpose that and formulate it in my mind and empower myself through it. But that same day, and I write about this a lot, I realized how wealthy I was. I was wealthy in health, in friendship, in love, and support. The only thing that was missing was cash and monetary, material things. And trust me, I lost all of it. And within 7 years, I had more than I had the previous 7 years. It's just amazing how you can transform yourself and how quickly change can happen if you just stay open and you're willing to take one more step. I didn't have the answers to everything, or I wouldn't have lost the 2 million. I made a bunch of mistakes. The real estate crash of 2008 and 2009, it wasn't the reason for my bankruptcy. Theoretically it was, but what it did is, like COVID has done, it has magnified everything that was wrong. And it just accelerated my mistakes. Really, my failure wasn't from outside, it was from within. And most people's are, I believe, at least in my experience. But it always ends something that's not working. That's the beauty of a failure. And it plants a seed, because you have this knowledge and experience to do something else. And trust me, I know a lot of ways to mess things up. So if you learn from those lessons, you usually don't, go through it again. If you do, you get thumped, and, but that was my biggest lesson.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of entrepreneurs have lost a lot of money over time. I have myself. I've made some really silly choices with money, and I've trusted people. I've been ripped off in business and ripped off with investments and things like that, and it can be incredibly frustrating. However, all millionaires I know who've hung in there, they usually do make back even more. And I do believe in karma when it comes to this too. If you're going to, rip someone off, then it will come back, tenfold that way. And I think if you do the right thing by people, it'll come back that way too. So I think the universe is an amazing place in how these things work. And I think everything is there to teach us something. So when you came back from your loss there, the $2 million, did you seek coaching there? You said to stay open. What were the steps you took to recover from that?
Yeah, I still do this to this day. When I'm in my worst place, I seek the most help. When I'm in my worst financial place, I take the biggest risk in hiring out help.
Mm.
I don't need it that much when I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Things are good. Boom. My mindset's boom. I'm powerful. I'm all this.
Yes.
But when we're feeling like this and we come out on the surface and go, oh, things are good. And inside we're like, man, I write music, and one line that sticks to me a lot of times is, I thought I was the big enchilada, but inside I was just a crumb. Right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
and that was my experience in 2008, 2009. I wrote a song about that. And,
Mm.
on the surface, I would come out, how are things? Oh, things are good. No, be truthful, be honest. That was my arrow break, right? How are things?
Mm.
Today I'm not feeling that great. And
Yeah.
then people go, oh, okay. And I go, no, it's good. It's just good to air it out. Like, we're emotional beings. So be with your emotions. Just don't wallow in it. We're people, and nothing offensive to pigs, but we're not pigs. So don't wallow in your mud. Just acknowledge
Yeah.
it. Hey, I'm here. Today I'm having a little bit of a down day. But what mindset
Mm.
can teach you is slow down your thinking, slow down your doing, so that you're aware of what you're experiencing. There's books written where if you can be the viewer of your own movie, your own life, that's where
Mm.
you're observing. And when you can observe, you can change things very quickly. So people have asked me, Jacob, you're always upbeat, blah, blah, blah. When's the last time you had a bad day? And I thought about it. In the last 20 years, my stepfather, who was the biggest mentor in my life, passed away suddenly. My
Mm.
mom passed away, who I got to relearn because of his death. We got to reconnect on a level that I was so grateful for, because there was a lot of animosity and friction there for a long time. So I learned how to be grateful for his death, not that he died, but for his death, because it opened up the opportunity for me to step into my forgiveness to my mother.
Mm.
And in that, so how could I feel bad about his death? Even in the same night that he passed away. So my father died, my mother died, I lost everything financially. And in all of those days, I experienced some really amazing things. So those were not fully bad days. So somebody said, when's the last time you had a bad day? And I go, I thought about all those things, and I thought about the good things that happened those days that were profound. And I said, I can't remember. Because every single day, I don't ignore what's wrong. I don't ignore what's bad, but I'm open to seeing what's good about it. There's so
Mm.
much good that's going on. COVID has been devastating for people. There's been so many unnecessary deaths here in the US, but there have been so many blessings that happen because of it. People have come together, families have come together. People are realizing they don't have to be in this rat race that they don't want to be anymore. And they're reconnecting to themselves. So in the end, when we look at this, I'm so sad for the losses that we had to experience. It, most of them were unnecessary, at least in certain opinions, for sure. And I'm one of those. But we've also experienced these things. There are more entrepreneurs now than there have ever been. The biggest growth for entrepreneurs right now since the end of 2018 is 55 plus, 50 years plus, not 55.
Wow.
The biggest growth for entrepreneurs. And they have the highest success rate because they have the experience. They've already experienced failure, so it's not going to be this devastating thing that takes them out. And they usually have a little bit more money, or at least skill set, to keep them in the game longer. So just a lot of good things happen. In spite of whatever you're going through right now, if you're an entrepreneur and you're struggling to get business, or you're doing this, realize how awesome is it? How amazing is it that you're at that point? That you're
Yes.
feeling the struggle, that you made this decision to do this, that you're already in the top 5% of people. There's just little tweaks sometimes that required, and support is a big thing. Get some support no matter what way it shows up.
Yes, absolutely. I think it comes down to that below the line, above the line mentality. A lot of people do live below the line. They live in guilt, shame, blame. It's easy to blame the government, blame others for the way the world is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you step above that and take responsibility for every choice you make in your life, everything you can control in your life, then you can totally shift the way you do life and step into gratitude and love, which are the highest vibrations that we will feel as human beings. there's always something we can be grateful for, and things can always be worse, so you might think it's bad now. It's kind of like, sometimes we think about what shoes we're going to wear, and there's people out there with no feet, right?
Amen.
And I often think when I get in really bad places or really down, dark places, and I have had depression over the years. I've had 4 friends who've taken their own lives by the age of 45. There's about 1 million people worldwide who take their own lives. So something I'm passionate about is to decrease depression and suicide rates with more good news and more truth in the news. And so when I get really down, I think of a guy called Nick Vujicic, who's got no arms, no legs. He's an Australian speaker. He's a phenomenal guy. I think of him and how inspiring he is with no arms and no legs, and what he does. And it just blows me away. And there's so many people like that out there who are so inspiring despite all the odds. They get up and they go and they come from that soul and that spirit, because we're spiritual beings in a human body, right? So we don't often get how powerful we are, how powerful our spirit is. And the way society is, I think, and the way we're brought up often is to drown that. We have what we call in Australia the glass ceiling, so anyone who steps up, they're going to be put down, right? Not so much probably in America. In America, I think they encourage greatness, right? In Australia, people do get jealous, and they will, often try to bring you down. And that's where I think your environment's really important. Hang out with entrepreneurs who do have that above the line mentality, or people in your life that do have that, because another saying is that 95% of your happiness or misery comes from who you choose as your life partner, or who you choose as, people hanging around you, right? So just notice, are you hanging out with people who are lifting your energy, or is your energy getting drained by those around you? And then it's a choice. And sometimes these people are family, it's a choice. How often do you want to hang out with these people in your life? Because some people won't change, right?
No, that's a great point. And also be really careful who you share your information with, because people will impose their limitations indirectly onto you because they can't see beyond their limitation. So when you share with family and friends, I learned from somebody, I think it was Tom Hopkins, who wrote one of the first sales books back a long time ago. But he said, when people ask you how you're doing, tell them unbelievable. Because you're either unbelievably good or unbelievably bad, so you'll never lie.
Yeah.
But it's so true to watch what you say and who you say it to. So when my family or friends say, "Hey, how's your business?" I always go, "Unbelievable." And they go, "You always say that." And I go, "Because it is." And then when they pry, I just say, I'm in my business quite often. I spend a lot of hours on it. Can we just talk about anything else? And they usually go, "Oh, okay." And the reason that I do that is because I would like to still see them. And if they start imposing their limitations on me, I have to shut it off. I choose not to accept your limitations onto me. And so just realize whatever anybody says, you don't own it until you accept it. You could tell me right now, "Jacob, you're the worst coach in the world. You're a failure. You're all this and that." I know myself well enough. I know that that's just your words. They're not mine. That's not my belief. Know your belief, know your worth. And it's so easy right now to surround yourself with like-minded people. You have Zoom for free for 40 minutes, right? You have Skype still. If people forgot about that, we still have Skype. You have FaceTime if you have an iPhone. We can connect with people all over the world. I'm on a call today in Australia, and I'm here in the San Francisco market, and so it's so easy to be connected with the right people. And it doesn't mean we alienate everybody. I've alienated some for sure. But with my family, I learned never to share my ideas or my business with them because they impose their limitations out of love. Watch out for this. Make sure you don't do that. Be careful about this. If you're getting that advice, who are you getting it from? Realize that. Would you take medical advice from your auto mechanic?
No.
You probably wouldn't, So don't take business advice from someone who's never been in business.
And everyone's entitled to their opinion. You don't have to take it on board as gospel. And yeah, ask advice from the right people who've been there, done that, getting the right coaches on board, who've got the runs on the board, who've had those challenges that you've had, and you've obviously had amazing success with your clients too. And I know, Christiana and you're working together. She's doing amazingly at the moment, and a phenomenal lady.
She is powerful.
She's extraordinary, and it's wonderful. So any other mindset tips for people watching this right now? Any other mindset tips before we go to the six-figure profit, how you make the six-figure profit? Obviously, mindset's a big part of it.
Yeah. So, the biggest thing is realize how much time, how much effort, how much money. Aldwyn said she spent over $500,000. I'm in that category as well. How many hours that you've spent doing what you do. We have to own our power. Everything starts from the inside and it comes outward. So own your ownership of your expertise, of your power, all the time and dedication that you put into it. Own your suffering or struggle or sacrifice that you have to do. Honor it. The way you honor it is the way you show up. And when a problem or something comes up, how do you face that? That's honoring your suffering. That's honoring your problem or owning it. I used today, somebody's talking about, I used Nelson Mandela as an example. What did he sacrifice? 25 years of his life. He didn't know if he was ever going to get out, but he had such a conviction for his result that he sought to change his whole country, that he was willing to sacrifice his whole life to stick with that, the meaning of what you do. So realize that part of what it is that you have the gift. Because everybody out here that's an entrepreneur, you have an opportunity to help a group of individual people better than anybody else can connect to them. Even if you do the same exact things, Aldwyn and I could go on a stage, be the same profession, say the same exact words, and we're going to attract a certain group of people because of the tone that we say it, the vibration, the energy that we put out there, and they're going to connect with us. I've had so many people say, Jacob, you've changed my life, blah, blah, blah. And I honor that, but I also tell them, if you weren't willing to do the work, it would just be good information. It's two people. It takes two people to do it. So realize there are people out there just waiting for you to show up. You have to own that piece up here, like know your value.
I love that. And I love to own your power as well. And it's interesting. It's one of my steps in my awesome magic media wand steps. I have an awesome formula, and the O in the awesome is own your power. And I'm actually putting on with a lady called Foxy Eloise on the 22nd of December in 4 days' time. We have an event called Own Your Power in 2021. So we're actually putting on a 90-minute free webinar, which is being promoted at the moment, Own Your Power in 2021. So incredibly important. We'll be digging deep into that and owning your value. That is so important. And Tim Mockby says, fantastic. Thank you, Tim, for that comment. Just pop that up there. And anyone else watching this too, if you have any comments, questions, please pop it up here and we can involve you in the live stream right now, wherever you're watching this, whether it's Media Queen TV on YouTube or on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, some wonderful tips there. Own your value, because the thing is, people will only treat you as you allow them to treat you. And so then it's a matter of looking at, how do you treat yourself? How do you allow people to treat you? And if you're allowing them to treat you in a way that you're not happy with, then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep tolerating that behavior, which often can stem from, how we were treated as children, what we believe we're worth? This is why certain people keep attracting abusive relationships, because that's what they believe they're worth, subconsciously or consciously. So it is, like you say, step back and get conscious to where you might be unconscious in how you're behaving in life. And sometimes we're too close to things to see it. We're too close to the situation, or we get too wrapped up in the emotions of a relationship, etc. Like I did recently, totally fell head over heels for a guy and totally lost myself in that, and then I had to kind of step back and wake up and go, what the hell am I doing? And now I'm back in my power again. Now I feel a lot better about the situation because I've stood up for myself and I'm not tolerating emotional abuse in that relationship, right? So, the hot cold that can happen with relationships, we all deserve more than that, right? And if someone's being hot and cold with you, then that's their stuff. It's not about you, right? So the thing thing is also not to take that on board and make it mean anything about you, but it's also not tolerating that as part of your life if that's not what you want, and focus on what you do want. Focus on what you do want so you can attract that, and focus on being the best version of you as well. So I digress a little bit there. However, relationships are incredibly important too for business, because you see so many people who've been millionaires in business and they suddenly have a relationship breakup and their whole business goes downhill as well. It happens a lot. So, it's important. Everything affects everything else. So to have that balance right across the board in your whole life, it's important to have that power within yourself and love yourself and value yourself and what you do and charge accordingly, and not do too much for free is one of the mistakes I made in business in the early days. I was doing a lot of things for free. I was doing a lot of charity work, which, it's great to tithe, but you have to balance. It's like the yin yang. You need to be open to receiving as much as you give, right? The yin yang of life. Be open to receiving. Otherwise you'll end up resenting it, and you'll be out of balance and you'll be depleted. And that's when you burn out, right? So,
or you'll be broke.
yes, or you'll be broke, exactly. So the money does matter in business, and often that's why people go into business, not just to make a difference, but they do want the money. And so something you help people have is a 6-figure profit. So what are some of the essential steps to have 6-figure profit in your business and to have a successful business? What do people need?
Yeah, well, it starts first with pricing, like honoring your value kind of, but figuring out your pricing strategy so that you have to cover expenses. See, people mistake pay yourself first, and they figure I'm paying myself, and if there's anything left, I'll pay for the other stuff. Well, if you don't pay your employees or you don't pay your suppliers, they're not going to give you the second order. So there's a formula. You have to pay for everything. You have to pay yourself a fair and honest wage or pricing, whatever it is that you call it. And you have to cover your taxes, and you have to make profit for your business. So there's a formula to put that all together so that every transaction you ever make is profitable. You never go to a corporation up to the CEO's office and say, we're out of paper, I need some money. You do a purchase order, and the company's profits pay for everything. The company's profits pay for your salary. That's part of their expenses. That's how they price things out. So you have to know how to do that first. The formula for creating a 6-figure business plus is pretty easy. If you can find, let's start easy. Let's start with 10 people. 10, not 5. 10 people. If you could find 10 people that would be willing to spend $1,000 a year with you, just $1,000 a year, you have a 6-figure business. Now, it doesn't mean you have a 6-figure profit. It means you have a 6-figure business. So if you can find 20 people to spend $500 a year, if you can find 40 people to spend $250, and this is where it gets really nice, because if you can find 1,000 people to spend $30 a year with, or $30 a month with you, on average, $360. You have a $360,000 company. You will make $100,000 in profit. It is so easy to find 1,000 people. Since March of this year was the first time I got super active in LinkedIn. I was on Facebook forever. I got super active on LinkedIn, and today I think I have 5,820 people. And so it's not difficult to find 1,000 people. Do you think out of 5,800 people, I could find 100 to spend $1,000 with me, with the stuff that I know, all the things, or the things that you know? If you had 1,000 people, could you find them to spend $20 a month in a membership program with you? That's $240,000 a year. If you have $40,000 in expenses and you pay yourself and everything else costs you another $20,000, you still have, $180,000 left. Could you live on that?
Yes.
It's not that difficult when we start breaking it down. What gets difficult is going through the steps. We come up with this, oh man, I'm so excited. Yes, I can do this, Jacob. That was so simple. And then 3 little bumps in the road, and then you're sitting back and not doing anything again. That's where hiring out help comes in handy. Like Aldwyn was saying, admin. You know, for a creative person, you want to create suffering and pain. Put us at a desk for 6 hours doing book work.
Yeah.
Right? So if somebody said, "Hey, take this needle and put it through your finger, or do 6 hours of book work," I'd go, "Let me think about that."
Yeah.
So this is where we have to learn to delegate. And in order to delegate, you have to price accordingly so that you can afford that person. And that's where this pricing for profit formula really, really helps, because you can forecast your business. It's really simple when you get the right structure into your business, and it doesn't take, you know, a dictionary or a PhD course in order to do it, but it does take specific steps, and it takes persistence.
And tracking the numbers is something I've always challenged with, I must say. You know, I've had different spreadsheets where I've started to track the numbers, but then, you know, I haven't always been consistent with it. And so what do you recommend for people who are just not into the numbers in their business and, you know, to track the numbers in your business, which sometimes you're the one that needs to do that, to track the leads or the sales, or, you know, what do you recommend?
I recommend the easiest path possible, which is hire a bookkeeper, not an accountant necessarily, at least a bookkeeper to keep your books on a monthly basis. Here's everything I took in. Here's everything I'm paying out. They will force you to, even if it's shoebox, to put your receipts and these things in a shoebox and give it to me at the end of the month. And for $20 to $30 an hour on average, for a few hours of time after they get the initial setup done, you can get this beautiful report once a month. And at the end of the year, you go to your accountant with these beautiful 12 reports and you say, "Here's my taxes for the year." And it saves you as much as you pay the bookkeeper to do it, because the accountant is not doing the work at $100 an hour or $200.
Yes.
So keep it simple, but figure out what's easy. There's also apps now. There used to be, it was called Sandy Botkin, who was known in the 80s for a lot of financial things, but it's an app. It's something bot. I think it's called TaxBot.
Okay.
And it's an app that allows you to photograph receipts, and you first create the categories and it automatically puts them in there. It tracks your mileage. If you have your phone on you, it tracks where you drove to, how far, how long you stayed there. It's very easy. There's all kinds of applications that you can use nowadays that can help you track things much easier. I had that for a while. I just chose not to have that. I hired a bookkeeper. It was much easier. Plus, I like the relationship. You talked about relationships earlier, and every single person in business is in a relationship business of some sort. So it's that value of the relationship that cultivates either loyalty in your clients. There's other things involved as well, but it starts with the relationship that you have first with yourself, because we express everything outward, even the stuff we hold in.
Yes, indeed. So important. And Melinda's got some good comments here. Hello, Melinda. Good to see you. She says, there BB loss walking, make that running. Oh, yeah, your time is precious. Make like a super something. Show me the money, she's saying. Make like a super, I think, happy person, she's saying there. Show me the money. And then she says, that guy's got a super cool voice. Yes, you do have a super cool voice, I must say, from San Francisco.
Thank you for that. I'll blush a little, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Melinda. We love the American voice over here in Australia, and I know that Americans love the Aussie voice over there. You love it. I love going to America because I just have to say hello and everyone falls in love with me. It's fantastic. It's I would have thought some American man would have snapped me up by now, but anyway, hasn't happened. So, you know.
That's what you say. That's what you wish for.
I think any single men out there, just reach out, send me a private message, and we'll chat.
Good luck on that one. You're going to have to hire another assistant just to answer those messages.
Yeah. Oh, hilarious. Now, Jacob, what about your personal family life? You know, how settled are you, I guess, in your family life, and how important is that for you, the family connections?
Man, it's everything at this moment. I've grown into it. So I've been married. I'll be married 29 years in 2021.
Wow.
So yeah,
Congratulations.
it's a roller coaster ride, and I'm just grateful that she was able and willing to hang on. And so, because trust me, man, I took it for a ride. But it's what you make of it. You know, I chose to make family important, and
Yeah.
not in the beginning. I had to grow into it. I didn't realize the value that I brought out to my family for a really long time. So for me, it's been the culmination of my own personal growth. And at this point, I couldn't imagine my life any different. I'm grateful to my wife. We have an amazing relationship. And it's communication is the key, just like it is with your working and yourself and everything. The greatest gift I've ever been given is being a grandfather. I'm
Mm.
I'm grandpa to two kids, and
Oh.
oh my God, man, it is. That's a whole nother show. But here's 22,000 pictures that I took just last week. It's like, but no, it's an experience of a lifetime for me to have not just the creation of um, two more humans that someone you brought up has helped create, but the unconditional love that they come in with. They're not obligated to us. They could say, we don't want to go to grandpa's house, and they wouldn't come.
Mm.
It's just this pure, unconditional love that you get to have. And if you're an active grandparent, you know what I'm talking about. Um,
Mm.
my my desire would be that everybody get this feeling, not necessarily the experience, because it's not made for everybody, but they get this feeling of having someone in their life that unconditionally accepts them no matter what. No matter, they don't care how I look, they don't care how I smell, they just want to be around me. And it's a great gift. Uh, Plus, to be able to bring up to people that you appreciate and admire as humans and individuals, not just because they're my kids. But I helped raise two girls
Mm.
from the time they were 6 and 3. Their dad's been active in their life, and we get along, and it's all how you approach it. So yeah, family is strong. I have strong loyalty to friendships. I have friendships that I've had for 50 years.
Mm.
I have Tim, who was on commenting. Thank you, Tim, for the comment. But he's been a great friend for, man, since I've probably been 15 or 16. We've been
Wow.
friends, and we got really tight in our 20s. And so, 30 plus years of friendship. And uh, it's about what you bring to the table and your loyalty to things. And that translates into my business as well. I keep my clients on average about 28 months, and the average coach is about six
Mm.
to nine.
Wow.
So it's a credit to them, but it's also the commitment that we put out there and the relationship that I cultivate, for sure.
Yes, and the wisdom that you bring to the party, and obviously it looks like 99% of your clients actually take action on what you teach them. And that's the thing, as a coach, you're not actually doing the work for them, but inspiring them to take action, which is amazing. And you obviously bring a whole huge level of wisdom to that from all the work that you've done on yourself too, in being the best version of you, to bring that to the party and impact those lives, for them to then impact their clients' lives. It's a beautiful ripple effect that happens with coaching, where you inspire people to step up and take life to another level. Now, Melinda here, she says, yes, she's seen people using the photo receipt app. And she says, where are you from? So you're from San Francisco, right? San
Area.
Francisco. Yeah, and she says, haha, billionaire American love their houses. So it looks like she wants an American partner as well. So Melinda, I don't know if you're single, Melinda, but maybe pop in the chat. Are you single? We might have an American-Australian matchmaking service come out of this conversation. Tim, I'm going to want to foot rub the next time I see you.
Yeah, right. You don't have enough money, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he wants one of those Reiki sessions on his feet. Is that what he's asking for?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He wants to try it out now.
I didn't share it way back then. If you would have asked me.
Amazing. Now, Jacob, what are some of the key philosophies that you live by? Do you have any favorite sayings? Like, you mentioned Nelson Mandela. I think of Viktor Frankl as well. Viktor Frankl is another amazing guy, went through the concentration camps, and, they took everything from him physically, but they couldn't take his mind, right? So any other sort of favorite sayings or people you admire or, ways that you do life or wisdom you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, my favorite quote is Gandhi's quote, which is "Be the change you wish to see in the world." I had it on my wall for 25 years. I just really like the quote. And then I went through some massive changes in my relationship. There was a point in my relationship where I decided that we were just more friends than lovers and took a separation. And in that time, I realized how much it was me, it wasn't anybody else.
Right.
And so I did a lot of work on myself in a really short period of time. And I'm grateful that, everything patched up and it's actually been better than ever since that time. But I realized when I changed, everyone and everything around me changed. My wife's attitude, the questions that were asked, the feeling, the emotion, everything changed. So I've taken that to a different level. Is when you are the change that you wish to see, everything around you will change. I'm an example of it. I'm also an example of it through business. Be the change you wish to see. I made a lot of errors that caused the failure in my, to lose. I don't recommend my lesson to, over 2 million net worth. But I had to change because what I was doing didn't work. So be the change that you wish to see, and that everything will change around you, including your results. But it's always an inside job. We can't blame anybody. People's opinions are people's opinions. They're plentiful, and most of them are meaningless unless we own them. So what you say to me, I appreciate if they're the good things and also the bad things. But I also know it's not about me. It's your interpretation of what you're feeling right now. And I'm grateful for all the gratitude or everything. But I also know that you could say all these good things about me, and there's still people that will go commit suicide. So it's not about what's outside. It's about what's inside. And we have to understand our value and our worth, and that every single person on here can make at least one other person's life change, make it different, make an impact in the most beautiful, positive way ever. All of us have this opportunity. And it's just a matter of be willing to trust it when you feel it. Put it out there. Say the word that you're thinking instead of just thinking it. Take the action that you think about taking instead of just thinking it. Make a difference to someone today. Do one thing. There's so many people now in the States that I'm reading about all the time that they're paying the toll for the car behind them. They're buying the coffee for the person behind them. They're buying the groceries for someone behind them. That's been happening here in California lately.
Wow.
It's just acts of kindness. Kindness can make the difference in the whole world. We experience unkindness. We see it every day on the news. We see it in politics. We see it in this and that. And it's like, the majority of us don't agree with it, but we just go along with it. It's about people of the light need to shine brighter. There's so many lights out there. It's just a matter of shining it and being willing to put it out there.
I love that. I love the Pay It Forward movie as well. Yeah, random acts of kindness. It's beautiful. That's beautiful to see that happening. And it is so rewarding when you do give. It is so rewarding to be able to help and serve others, and at the same time to be open to receiving. So not giving too much where you're depleting yourself, giving within your means, and also being open to receiving is so important. I love those quotes. I love Gandhi too. Fantastic. Melinda is, she's on a roll here with these comments. Thank you, Melinda. She says, grandchildren, yes, they're little darlings when they do something brilliant or funny. When they're naughty, hand them back.
Yeah.
No,
beauty.
She says, not just their houses. No, I want to go there sometime to the US to do my family history. My great-great-grandfather paid for one of those red bridges to be built. Wow, amazing. One of those red bridges. Fantastic. And Melinda said, San Fran has good seafood and that famous street-like huge roller coaster. Been in a lot of movies, that street. Starts with a smile, kindness. Yeah. So what street is she talking about?
Crooked Street. It's
Cricket Street.
Yeah, it's like a winding river. It's I'll think of it in a second.
Okay, Winding River Street.
They call it Crooked Street.
Cricket Street. Oh, cricket as in CR, cricket. Yeah. Oh, Cricket Street. Okay,
crooked.
Great.
Yeah, crooked. Lost in translation.
Cricket with
crooked, like a crooked river, or
the cricket. Cricket.
Like crook, like a thief with a ed at the end. Crook.
Oh, crooked.
Crooked. Yeah.
Crooked. Here we go. This
Lost in translation, right? It's like we say check it off, you say tick it off. Right?
Yeah.
You say diary, we say calendar.
Yeah, we say petrol, you say gas.
Yeah, right. Or excuse me. Yeah.
We say tomato, you say tomato.
There you go.
Now, San Francisco also, I believe, has a lot of homeless people. Now, how is the situation over there with the homeless?
It's in certain areas, it's as bad as you see. And there's two sides of that coin. You know, some people believe that they should all be helped freely no matter what. And then the other part of that believes that they should contribute in some way to get something back. You know, I think society, you know, and this is just my opinion, which is just my opinion. I think that, you know, a balance has to be found because, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are experiencing this, you know, homelessness. And because of the climate, it makes it tolerable, you know, 365 days out of the year to do it. I mean, the worst that we get here is rainy days. And it only rains between October and May. And then it's dry for the rest of the year here. That's why we have fires as well, because things grow like crazy. Like right now, we're having a lot of rain. So things will grow like crazy. And then it just totally dries out between May 1st and, you know, the end of September.
Yeah, we've had big pouring rain here over the last few weeks on the Gold Coast. It's been really torrential rains and winds, and then the humidity comes in after that. So then, you know, we often get a lot of rain and a lot of fire as well in the summertime over here. So yeah, it's interesting. The weather that we can't control, right?
No, we
can prepare ourselves, like the weather, the changes of life, like the weather. So it's been wonderful chatting with you, Jacob. Now, if people want to connect with you, or if, you know, any other questions from anyone watching this, if you have any questions, comments, what you got out of this, please pop it into the chat. If people want to connect with you, how can they do that, Jacob?
Yeah, well, the easiest way to find me on a regular basis would be to go to LinkedIn. That's my most active social media. I'm occasionally on Facebook, but I'm using it just less because my LinkedIn is much more geared towards my ideal client. If you're interested in getting some help or you have a question, feel free to email me. And it's just my name @gmail. That's the public one that I have. And but yeah, LinkedIn is probably the one, or you can go to my website, which is my name, jacobroig.com. And those are probably the fastest ways to get in touch with me for sure.
Wonderful. Fantastic. And Melinda's just said, yeah, that's it. It's a winding street zigzag. Yes, homeless houses, simple, go out to the desert where all the planes are dumped. Instant homeless hotels, really? Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
So there's all kinds of stuff out there. There's things that they do. What they've been doing since COVID is leasing closed down hotels and then housing homeless people in those. So they're getting as many people as they can off the street, but it's at an epidemic stage in certain towns, certain areas for sure.
I actually went down Skid Row. I was in LA last year, and a friend took me for a drive down Skid Row in LA, and it was just streets and streets of, you know, tents. It was kind of like Tent City. streets and streets of tents and homeless people wandering around looking lost. And it was very sad to go through that. It's really heavy energy when you go through those areas. And that's the thing, life is full of people, of all sorts of people in going through all sorts of situations, and you have to also, I think, protect yourself from going into those dark places yourself when you come into that kind of space, right? You need to protect your own energy and obviously consider your safety, because there could be desperate drug addicts as well amongst the homeless people. So you need to be aware of that. And obviously with guns in America as well, it makes it even scarier, because anyone can pull out a gun at any point, right? So
it's not that bad.
Yeah.
They're definitely there, and it's prevalent in certain areas, but it's usually small pockets that you wouldn't go in unless you're really foolish, because you can feel the energy.
Right.
But it's not as rampant as it may be perceived, where anywhere you go, people are pulling out guns, and it's like that.
It's not like the movies.
Not at all.
With the gang wars and
right.
with the mafia and yeah. So well, look, there's so much we can be grateful for. There's so many great opportunities out there. Melinda says, thank you. Great fun again. Yes, it's getting worse here, the homeless people. Yeah, in Australia too, we have a homeless situation, that's quite bad. Melinda, I believe you're down in Melbourne. Is that right? In Melbourne and Sydney, particularly the major cities, do have homeless issues here in Australia as well. In fact, going to Sydney over the last few years, I've noticed more and more homeless people in Sydney too, on street corners. And then I've heard of those homeless people that turn up in a taxi. They come and set up on the corner and then they get a taxi home, right? So then some people apparently are doing it for business, which I find extraordinary. So, I would rather, with a homeless person, I'd rather give them food rather than give them money, because, you just don't know what they're going to do with that money. They're going to spend it on drugs or on alcohol or cigarettes, etc. Oh, Melinda's in Brisbane. Okay, so Brisbane's also got a situation. So they're the three biggest cities in Australia, is Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane.
And I'd rather show them how to sustain themselves.
Yes, ideally.
If you're willing to do it, anybody can start from anywhere. You don't require a bunch of money to start out, but it does take an idea and determination to go through the blocks that you're going to experience,
Yes, absolutely. And regardless of where you are right now, you can absolutely turn things around. I know a man who was a millionaire who became homeless, and then he became a millionaire again. So, there's ways you can get yourself out of your current situation if you choose to, and if you want to, and if it's time that you stop playing the victim role, because I do believe, particularly in Australia too, we have the government supports people here. They get, quite good payouts when they're unemployed. And I don't believe really there should be any homeless on the street, because there's always something people can do to pull themselves out of it. But each to their own. There's mental illness as well that happens out there, so that's a whole other story. And at the same time, there's lots of entrepreneurs making heaps of money and making a huge difference. Social entrepreneurs too. The more they empower themselves financially, they can help others. We have things like the Vinnie's CEO Sleep Out, which a whole lot of CEOs sleep out on the street and raise money for the homeless here. So there are a lot of great people doing what they can to help. And again, it comes back to what we talked about at the beginning of this interview, is starting with you, right? And being your own best friend and doing whatever it takes, right, to love yourself and to be the best version of you. Because if you valued yourself, you would find a way to get off the streets, right? If you really valued yourself.
Yeah, it takes consistency, and it takes persistence, and it takes some help for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Melinda says, yes, show a man how to make a fishing net, and so long as the river isn't polluted, you're fed for life. Exactly. Teach them how to fish. Exactly. Yes, well said, Melinda. Fantastic, Jacob. Any final words you'd like to say before we wrap up? I could speak to you all day. It's been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you. Me too. I would just say, take some of these messages and really understand your own value and the impact that you make on others. But start with yourself. Just start being aware of what it is that you're thinking and how you respond or react to what shows up. Again, we can't control what shows up, but we can control how we respond to it. And how we respond to it determines how long the problem stays with us and what the problem is, whether it feels bad or good. again, I get excited about a problem because I know I'm growing.
Yes.
Just take this and know that you have so much more than you may believe, in capability, in ability, and in service to others. And if you can do all of those three, fantastic. If you can't do any, go help somebody else who's in a worse place than you.
I love that. And the thing is, you are 1 in a billion just by being born. You've beaten about 1 billion swimmers to get to the finish line just by being born. Right? So you are extraordinary. There's a reason you're here. There's a reason you're watching this right now. And if you don't know how to do something, seek help, seek support, seek the right mentors, seek someone like Jacob to coach you, right? If you want support, support is out there for you. It's just a matter of asking. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, Jacob. Thank you so much for your time today, all the way from San Francisco to the Gold Coast. It's been a wonderful interview today. And for those watching this, whether it's on Media Queen TV on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we have over 500 interviews and amazing videos on there that you can check out at YouTube, Media Queen TV, and on Facebook, wherever you're watching this, please stay connected. All our upcoming events also are listed on Eventbrite. So please follow me on Eventbrite to get all the event updates. Aldwyn Altuney on Eventbrite. You will see all of those. And I have a few events coming up. I'll just mention quickly. We just had our last Mass Media Tribe event of the year last night with Christiana Tudor. We talked about how to use social media for greatness. So the replay of that is in the Mass Media Tribe group in Facebook. 22nd December from 10 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. That's Brisbane time. It's about 2 hours from now, wherever you are in the world. December 22, we've got Own Your Power in 2021 with Foxy Eloise, free webinar for 90 minutes. And then January 9, I have a full day workshop I am doing for free as well online called Free Publicity Secrets for those who want to step up with their messaging at free publicity. That's going to be January 9. And we have the next Global Good News Challenge coming up from January 4 till 10. You can start your 7-day Global Good News Challenge where you share your name, what you do, 3 things you're grateful for, and a piece of good news to not just lift your energy and get into a space of gratitude. You will attract more opportunities to yourself. You can promote your business, promote what you're up to. It is a fantastic exercise to be involved in, a fantastic challenge, and people I know who've done it all over the world, they really look forward to the monthly Global Good News Challenges so that they get into that space. And it's amazing how people connect through sharing where they're at and what they're grateful for on video with people all over the world. So for details on that, it's all in Facebook under Global Good News Challenge on the Facebook page. Pinned to the top of the page is all the details around that. Anything else, just reach out, send a private message. And if you need help with anything, we'd love to help you. Any questions, comments, what you got out of this event would be great to see in the chat as well. Melinda says the swimmer quote. Oh, the swimmer quote. You're 1 in a billion, Melinda. Merry Christmas. Yes, Merry Christmas to you too, Melinda. Have a beautiful festive season. Everyone watching this right now, lots of blessings and love to you. I have my love heart here. Much love and gratitude. Thank you so much, Jacob. It's been an absolute pleasure. Reach out to Jacob if you want to connect with him, find out more about his coaching. Do reach out. LinkedIn is the best place for him. Just search him on there. Thank you so much for joining us on the live. And if you're watching the replay, love to see what you thought of this interview, what you got out of it. Pop into the comments, or maybe something you're going to do differently moving forward. Also, where you're from. Love to see where you're from as well. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you again soon. Aldwyn Altuney signing out with Jacob Roig. See you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.